Good evening. I'm Susan Pearl, along with Martha Sukur, and we're the co-chairs of the Circle. We are thrilled to have everybody here this evening to help us celebrate the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle 20th anniversary. Today, we're specifically celebrating where we came from and how the Circle started. We have made leaps and bounds in the 20 years of our existence, and in 2002, the Circle made the first of 10 grants for a total of $51,834. Last year, we were able to grant over $500,000 to 23 worthy organizations. In our 20-year history, we have given to 371 organizations for a total of $6.3 million. It's truly amazing. And so many people have contributed to our success as an organization. And it's really the committees that do the work day to day. Today, though, we're going to hear from our first co-chairs, Pam Corckran and Shelley Goldseker. Additionally, we are going to hear from Sister Pat McLaughlin and Lynn Selby. That was the first CEO and the current CEO of the Caroline Center. They were one of our first grantees and a 7-time recipient of a Circle grant. You're also going to have an opportunity to be in a breakout room with our founders, many of who continue to be supportive and active in our Circle. So please take the opportunity to stay for the breakout and to speak with these passionate ladies who help create the Circle.
Over the past 20 years, we've had 20 Circle co-chairs, all of whom have given so much time and energy to the Circle and to whom we owe such a huge debt. But today, we're going to hear from our founding co-chairs, Pam Corckran and Shelley Goldseker, who helped to conceive, nourish, and guide the Circle from its inception through its beginnings and through the first 3 years of their term as co-chairs. And when they finished their term, the Circle had amassed over 200 members. And along with the other founding members, Pam and Shelley established many of the policies and protocols that are still in place today. So hello, Pam and Shelley. We're so glad to have you.
I wanted to welcome everyone here today and to help us go down our trip down memory lane together. It's striking when you see a picture of yourself from 20 years ago. Pam and I were reminiscing earlier that we were both turning 50 when we launched the Giving Circle. And well, you do the math. It's jarring to see those pictures, but nonetheless, you all look wonderful and so much the same in my eyes. And I appreciate you all being here. Pam and I thank you for this opportunity to connect, to reflect, and to give thanks. So thank you to the planning committee that helped orchestrate today. Sincere thanks to Martha and to Susan for inviting us here and giving us this opportunity. And thanks to the amazing women who all form the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle and make it such a cohesive and responsive organization circle that is so impactful to our city. And most importantly for us anyway, a big actual virtual hug to all the founding members, or should I say founding mothers, who helped birth the organization 20 years ago. It's just really hard to allow time, difficult to allow time for everybody that's here to have the opportunity to share with us all what our memories, what your memories were from 20 years ago, and what motivated you to join the Circle, you know, two decades ago, because it was such a innovative and new vehicle for change. So take the opportunity, if you'd like, to chat in what your motivation was to join the Circle. We'd love to hear that. We also wanted to say that it was really your bravery, your vision and your compassion and your values that helped you want to go on this collective leap of faith with other like-minded women. You know, it takes an appetite for risk to want to do something new and join in an endeavor that hadn't been done before. So I really value the fact that you had the courage to do that and to put your resources, your intellectual and social capital to bear, and bring it to the Giving Circle. It's hard to think back 20 years when most people didn't have iPhones. They weren't invented till 2008. Of course, many of us had a little flip phone, and most people didn't have an email address. So we communicated by snail mail, which was also a big challenge for the most part. But what we did have in common was a hunger to be civically engaged. We wanted to bring our intellect and our awareness and our resources to bear on issues that impacted on our city. We wanted to create a collective philanthropic pool of funds, and we wanted to learn about the issues that face women in poverty, because they were challenged by a calculus of suffering that we really had no way to even fathom. You know, it's often been said that the ovarian lottery is what separates us and puts us on this side of the funding equation, because just as easily as that, we could be the recipients and not the donors. And so I think we all brought that value to bear on what we did, that therefore, but the grace of God go all of us, you know. And so we wanted to leave our confines of comfort and see how people were struggling in Baltimore, and try to find ways that we could impact on that. So some of our motivations to start the circle was that we wanted to bring women to the philanthropic table. Traditionally, you know, men sat around the philanthropic table and decided what organizations would be funded, what causes would be addressed. But if you were able to have women's voices at the table, you brought their sensitivities, and you did what was called funding through the gender lens. You know, we all represent a continuum of the female experience, from being attorneys, accountants, teachers, mothers, daughters, sisters, friends. And so we bring that sensitivity of our life experiences to bear on the issues that we see are important to women and girls throughout the city. So we felt that was an important factor. We wanted to give women agency, to have a voice, not only collectively in what we were going to give to, but individually, to learn how to be strategic fundraisers, grant makers on our own, not just to have someone call and ask for the husband to when they made a solicitation, and our husbands or partners would say, yes, I'd like to give to this or that, but to be part of that dialogue. And so I think this was an opportunity not only to gain insight, but to gain confidence and to learn how to be a strategic philanthropist, and to level the playing field so that there was a democratization of giving, and not the hierarchy that exists in other venues of philanthropy throughout the city. And to focus and learn what the issues that face women are, and to create an opportunity. One of the great benefits I felt of the circle was to create an opportunity to bring women together from both sides of the Falls Road divide, as we said 20 years ago, to bring a diverse group of women together that didn't have the opportunity to work together before. As Pam and I used to say, it was Hadassah meeting Junior League. So we really gained so much from that. We learned about our commonalities, about what binds us together, and and we grew as people, and we grew in friendship with each other. And that was an amazing byproduct of the situation. So we were able to forge a vehicle for change, and we're just so thrilled that you were part of that, a huge part of that. Pam, can you share now about the relationship that existed between the Giving Circle and the ABAG, BCF, and the Giving Project?
Right. Well, in January of 2001, there were 12 women sitting around a table working with Betsy Nelson at Association of Baltimore Area Grant Makers and Buffy Bedoin Schwartz, who Betsy had hired to run the Giving Project, which was a project to look at women in philanthropy in Baltimore and in Maryland. The whole concept of Giving Circles was just barely beginning. There were some women's associations. They weren't necessarily called Giving Circles. And so in this little group of women, we were looking at ways to promote philanthropy in Baltimore and surrounding areas. We had a mother-daughter tea at one point, but then the conversation eventually turned to looking at developing our own Giving Circle. We couldn't have done it without Betsy and Buffy, and also Baltimore Community Foundation stepped in and said they would like to give us seed money, $10,000, which was just huge back then. And they gave us housing. We had places to meet, the seed money, and we had some wonderful people from Baltimore Community Foundation we also couldn't have started without, which was Gigi Wirtz, who did all the publicity, and Cheryl Kashani, who was a huge help, and of course our own Ann Daniels, who was our grant administrator right from the beginning and just got us off on the right foot right from the start. So this group, we just started talking about Giving Circles and what they were all about, and kind of started to create the structure of what we would like to see in a Giving Circle. So between January and May, we kind of got the bones of what we wanted. We started developing our mission and our goals. We started looking at our committee structure. We started looking at responsibilities of what committees we might have. One thing we were very sure of right from the beginning is that this was going to be an organization where everybody contributed equally. Everybody had a say in how we ran this organization. It was very democratic. And then in May, we realized we needed to take this away from the little table of 12 women. And in May, we decided to have a luncheon, and we invited everybody we knew and just sent out blindly invitations to everybody. I think we got about 150 women, I'm pretty sure. But anyway, out of that, we did get a bigger group that started working together. And at the end of the year, our first year, we had 52 members. One of the key things that we had to look at was in our structure, did we want to have an endowment or did we want to have money in, money out? And we chose money in, money out. We didn't want to invest any money for later. The other big decision was what would we charge for our members? And we wanted it to be something where they'd think before they wrote that check. So we chose $1,000, which was big, and you really had to think about it. And it meant a lot to everyone. And you were turning it over to a group of women who were going to make decisions about your money. But that $1,000 was going to go to multiple agencies in Baltimore and the surrounding community. So I think that's where Shelley, is that your memories of sort of the basic structure we started with, and then from there
and we also felt that we wanted to have equal access, and the circle really represented the true configuration of what we had hoped for. We wanted everybody to feel that they could be on any committee, they could be part of the grants committee or any committee they wanted, and also have equal access to leadership, that it wasn't going to be a top-down organization, but everyone on an equal footing, not just with the equal playing field. In other words, everybody giving the same amount of dollars, but no hierarchy in any respect. And so we felt that that was a novel concept.
And I think Shelley too, what I forgot to say was that we had our two prongs were education of our members. We really wanted our members to be very well informed about the issues in the community and the impact it was having on women and their families. And the other prong was that we wanted to become excellent grant makers. We wanted to learn everything there was to learn about being grant makers. And that's really very similar prongs to today. But that was really important to us that, when we gave out the grants, we wanted to really understand what the problems were that we were going to support and what kind of an impact could small grants have on an agency. So that was important to us. And a lot of our basic structure is still with us today. And as we would expect after 20 years, it's certainly changed, but I think some of those first things that happened around that table have stuck with us till today.
Absolutely. And also we want to, I know Pam and I, constantly sing the praises of Betsy Nelson and Buffy Bedoin Schwartz, who were so instrumental. They really gave us the roots and the knowledge and the language and gave us wings. And BCF I can't rave enough about, because without them we really truly wouldn't have been here. They not only gave us the seed money, but more importantly, they gave us total autonomy. And having been involved, with many other organizations, that's a very rare thing, to house an organization and nurture it, but be hands off. And not only that, they gave us the amazing assistance of having Ann Daniels and Cheryl Kashani. Ann Daniels is, still with us here and is such a big part of the circle. And Cheryl Kashani was, was a big presence at the Community Foundation, a really super bright woman, and was very helpful in those early days. And Gigi Wirtz, who gave us her amazing skill set in communications. And we had some wonderful publicity and wonderful articles, and that attracted, a lot of attention, which brought us wonderful members. And just being housed at the Community Foundation gave us the credibility and the comfort of having a trusted fiscal agent. And that's really a huge thing. Plus,
I think we don't want to end before a huge thank you to all those women and the very first members who really took a leap of faith, as Shelley said earlier, to follow us on this incredible journey. It was exciting. It was fun. I have never been to so many meetings that every single one was a joy to be there. Everybody shared. It was like we just fell together. It was at the perfect time. Everybody contributed. And eventually, as we went along, some of our members said, I trust you. I just want to give you the check for $1,000. And others said, I want to get actively involved. And so it was just up to however you felt as to, what your role in the circle would be. But it worked really, really well. And we can never thank the original members enough. We wouldn't be here today without all of you and what you contributed and how you moved us along. And it was just, it was an exciting time to create something new, and that we were all thrilled to be able to.
Thank you. Thank you so much. That is so interesting and informative. And I think so many of us noted that the things that you talked about are still such a part of the circle today. You gave us a foundation that exists and is being, I don't know, borne out every day. And thank you so much for your
Our
time.
pleasure.
It was just
It was
wonderful.
an honor. We felt honored and privileged to be a part of it.
Yeah.
We really appreciated the trust that you all put in us, and it was just a delight. And thank you for continuing on and picking up the mantle, you and Susan, and inviting us here today to reminisce. Bring the dinosaurs out of the closet. Let us reminisce.
Hardly. That is not the
So
case.
thank you.
Okay. And
Thank
now
you.
we're going back to Susan.
Well, thank you, Pam and Shelley, for that fascinating description of the early days. We all can share with tremendous pride of having forged this collective giving approach to philanthropy. And it was our shared resources that have begun to create meaningful and lasting changes in the lives of all that who we have extended ourselves to. I'm going to just mention that Dr. Shanesha Shawls, I can't see her currently, but she is the current director of the Baltimore Community Foundation, and she joined us here today. Hi. So we're going to go to the Caroline Center, who were one of our first grantees. They're such an example of, first of all, they do workforce training, which they're going to tell you about, but they have a holistic approach to this, which has been so meaningful. In the spring of 2002, they received a grant from us for $5,834 to start their geriatric nursing program. In December of that same year, they actually graduated 23 students who all went on for employment. And today we are fortunate to have Sister Pat McLaughlin, who is the original CEO. And we also have Lynn Selby, who is the current CEO of the Caroline Center. So they're going to be telling us how they're continuing their work during this challenging time. Welcome.
Thank you for having us. We couldn't be more excited than to be here with you as you celebrate your 20th anniversary, and we start our year celebrating our 25th anniversary. It truly is an exciting time, and we're honored to be here. And I'm honored to be here with Sister Pat, who was our founding executive director, who I never say I'm replacing, but I get to pick up the mantle where she left and carry on. So we're going to spend a little time with you telling you about Caroline Center and how important the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle has been to us over the course of the year. So Sister Pat, do you want to say anything else before I go on?
No, just happy to be here.
Okay.
I'll have something to say later.
Okay, great. Next slide, Jeff. So I'm probably going to say some things that a lot of people know, but then some of you all don't know. But one of the most things we're proud of is to be a work-sponsored program of the School Sisters of Notre Dame. And the School Sisters, if you ever come to our site or 900 Somerset Street, I was with Sister Pat in a Zoom earlier, and she talked about it being a holy space. And it really is a holy site. It's a site where the sisters landed in, I'm going to try to get it right, 1857, Sister Pat?
1847.
1847. And that's where they started their efforts in the States to go out and, as we say, educate women to transform the world. And that really is the guiding principle of what we do in the spirit of the School Sisters of Notre Dame. The thing that we're so blessed with by being a sponsored work program is that it really is a partnership between the SSND and Caroline Center. And they weigh in often on, they check in, they see how we're doing, and they give us guidance a lot. So we're just blessed to be a part of actually a community of sponsored work programs. We're in the Atlantic Midwest province, and I guess we're located, there are work sponsored programs from here to around Chicago before you get into the Midwest. So the School Sisters are just, it's a wonderful environment in which to operate and to serve the women of Baltimore. Next slide. One of the things that we embrace as a part of our work, which we'll talk a little bit more about, is that in a workforce environment, you can provide technical skills, you can provide wraparound services, and some of those ancillary things that a lot of workforce programs do. But what is so important at Caroline Center is the values and the spirit in which we operate. And I just wanted to share with you all some of the values, or all of the Caroline Center values, because I imagine that when you started the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle 20 years ago, some of these things, some of these values were embedded in your conversations about what you wanted to do and how you wanted to make an impact in the city of Baltimore. So not only do we embrace these and share them with our women and teach and have exercises about it, we do this and embrace these as a staff as well. This month, as a staff, we're working on the value of integrity. The students may be working on something, but this is so important to us. It's not just technical training, it's really growing the women and growing ourselves across all of these value areas. Next slide. Who do we serve? We serve Baltimore City women. The women that come to us are ages 20 and above. We normally don't go over ages 50 in terms of the women we serve. They are unemployed and underemployed, and something that we normally don't put like in our marketing materials, but they come to us for a desire to want to be passionate caretakers. Some of them have cared for a grandmother, a relative. Some of them has already worked in the healthcare environment, but they have a spirit that we want to continue to nurture and grow in them to be passionate caretakers. So I'm going to turn it over to Sister Pat now just for 1 second, because this is where we started. I didn't remember all this. I had to call her and ask her, and she'll talk about back in 1996, how we started our training opportunities. Sister
Right.
Pat?
Thanks, Lynn. When we started Caroline Center, we started training women to be in the clerical field, secretaries, administrative assistants, whatever you want to call it. And we also ran a GED program because many of the women who came to us didn't have a high school diploma. That changed over the years, but we moved from clerical maybe 2 years after we started, because the requirements for a job as an administrative assistant were becoming beyond our scope. College degrees sometimes. So we decided that we were setting women up for not being able to sustain a job in that field. So then we moved to childcare and the CNA, the geriatric nursing assistant. We tried a few other forays into some interesting areas like culinary. We trained women to be house painters for a while, and many of you might remember our upholstery shop, which was really a social enterprise that we had for about 4 years. The recession in 2008 got to us, but what we have now, as Lynn will continue to talk about, is really the CNA program, which has been our most long-standing, and then pharmacy technician. And Lynn, you can take it over from there.
Sure, and just a little fun fact about upholstery. If you come in our building, you will see the pictures of the women doing upholstery. Last year, Jessica Roby, who is our academic and career advancement specialist, launched a networking event for our women. And 2 of the women from the original upholstery program came to the Christmas networking event and left. And it ended up reupholstering some furniture for someone that was there that day. So I'll say, Sister Pat, that the skills that they learn, upholstery is kind of a dying art. We kind of throw furniture out and go buy new. But this family wanted theirs reupholstered. So those skills are still coming in handy today. I just thought that was interesting that so many years later, that these women were doing that. So where are we now? As Sister Pat said, the things that stayed at Caroline Center were the certified nursing assistant and the geriatric nursing assistant, pharmacy technician. One of the things I like to say now is that and I'll talk a little bit about it late towards the end, but in this COVID environment, and even though we see a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel with more testing and vaccines, The women that we're preparing to be CNAs and pharmacy techs are really the essential workers who will go out there now and join the ranks of other healthcare professionals to caretake, to provide medicine and prescriptions for. There's this awful thing where some people get over COVID and they become these long haulers and they'll need attention. So we're just so proud that we're making an impact in preparing women to go out and be essential workers and join the ranks of other healthcare professionals in the battle against COVID and whatever else specialty they want to do within those two. The thing that, go back one more little bit, Jeff, thank you. The thing that when we talk to employers, one of the things they say that separates the Caroline Center women from some of the other women that they see are some of these holistic support services. We can provide the technical training, but we've got to add some of those upskilling services as well that really prepare them to be successful out in the work world, and that are sometimes considered barriers to employment. So we do what's called the professional practices or essential skills. That's the job readiness, the work ethic, the resume writing. I'll add in that we do a lot around computers and learning how to navigate on a PC. As you can imagine, within the population we serve, there is a large digital divide sometimes, and we don't consider smartphones necessarily what you need to be successful around technology. We have a very robust counseling and social work department and services. So women, it's self-select. If they're having some issues personally, professionally, within the program, they can see our counseling and social worker. We do a lot around financial literacy. Many times our women think if you don't have a great deal of money, then financial literacy is not for you. But we say you have to start somewhere. And we start with the banking accounts. We've been talking to them about investment. We have a new program where they'll be pairing the alums with certified financial planners that will come to us pro bono. CPR, that's something that was really fun when we did that. The staff did it as well. You cannot have some type of guilty verdict on your record when you come to Caroline Center. The reason is that we need to be able to license you by the Board of Nursing and the Board of Pharmacy. So we work with the Maryland Volunteer Lawyers Services Program that will come and work with our women to get their records expunged. And then one of the things that we added about 2 years ago is grief counseling. That was some feedback we received that, and this predated COVID, that women, many of the women that came to us experienced loss of a child, a parent, a significant other. We know about the violence in the community, loss of a loved one due to long-term incarceration. So we partnered with Roberta's House. Many of you all know Roberta's House, and Annette March Greer, who was a CNN hero, offered to provide grief counseling to us for our women and staff pro bono. So those are some of the things that we wrap around the women to ensure that once they get the technical skills, that they're able to be successful in other areas as well. Next slide. And we talked a little bit about Alum Services. I think this is really a differentiator for Caroline Center. Our academic and career advancement program really sees to it that our women, once they finish the CNA, GNA, and pharmacy technician, that's just not the end for them. We encourage them to go on and acquire additional certification. We encourage them to go on a career path. We don't see it. We're even talking about how we change how we talk about not jobs, but careers and career paths, and how we express that to our women. And also further education, whether it's 2 years, 4 years. We are blessed to receive scholarship dollars from several donors that will allow us to help our women go on to receive additional certification. We've partnered with the Notre Dame of Maryland University. Some of our women are in introductory programs to go on there, but they're also participating in an interprofessional day where they learn some of the skills using the technology there that we have. The women will work on a patient, and the pharmacy techs will make the medicine for them. So we're really trying to expose our women, and the staff with the academic and career advancement department really do a good job. Something else they do is job and career placement. And we want to make sure that we know, and this is one of the things we talk about frequently, that some of our women, they want to be CNAs, GNAs, and pharmacy techs. That is their goal. And we honor that. But for those women that want to go further, we will help them move along that career path. We will provide them with scholarships. And the neatest thing is that they're considered lifetime members. So you can leave Caroline Center today and come back 5 years from now and get some support as well. Next slide. All right, so Baltimore Women's Giving Circle and Caroline Center. I pulled up the mission of Baltimore Women's Giving Circle and Caroline Center, and it's prophetic, and it's so much synergy that the alignment across our respective missions around empowering women. We want to all support the family, achieving self-sufficiency, creating a future of hope. And so it seems almost destined that in 2002, that we were one of the first recipients of your generous grants, and just that we're aligned in terms of what we see as a future and how we want to help the women that we serve. Next slide. Okay, so this is this is just a small snapshot. Baltimore Women's Giving Circle's generous funding supports. Over the years, it's been a little bit over $140,000, certified nursing assistants, GNA training program, general operating supports, and are bringing on of a pharmacy technician, coordinator, and instructor, establishment of our location at St. Agnes. I know Sister Pat, you may want to say something a little bit about that later. And then both personnel at both Somerset Street and the St. Agnes locations. Next slide, please. All right, Sister Pat, I'm going to turn it over to you for a minute. I wasn't around then, but I'll let you talk about how exciting it was when we got that first grant.
Well, it was exciting, Lynn, and I think the best part of it was for such a specific amount, $5,834. Not that we ever got a grant for that amount. It would always be $5,000 or $6,000, but it spoke to me of how careful the Women's Giving Circle was about using their resources. It was your first year, and so you didn't have a lot, and so you were going to portion it out and make it go as far as it could. So I just love that amount. I always remember that. And then, you know, the additional funding over the years has been that support was not just financially important, but morally important for the staff, because they saw a group who really believed in what we did, and time and again would come back and say, yeah, you're still doing it, and we still want to support you. So your support over the years has been so important.
Next slide. Okay, and then I saw a question down here. I'm going to jump in because I don't want to forget. Somebody asked, what did our value of biodiversity mean? What does that mean? And biodiversity just speaks to everything that inhabits the ecosystem, people, plants, everything. And we just talked to our women about being respectful of the whole earth and everybody that's an inhabitant of it. So that's what we mean by biodiversity. Anything more, Sister Pat, around that?
No, it's again embedded in SSND values.
Okay. And I know this slide is super small, but I should have made it a little bit bigger, but just a little bit about the outcomes. Sister Pat talked about some of the earlier efforts. And so in 2012, the Baltimore Women's Giving Circle supported 72 graduates. 2014, 70 CNAs and 40 PTs, and a full-time pharmacy tech coordinator and instructor. 2016, 2017, St. Agnes Hospital opening, and 282 graduates across, for CNA across St. Agnes and 900 Somerset. Sister Pat, do you want to say a little bit about St. Agnes before I go to the next one? Because that's really an important part of our history.
Yeah. In 2015, when the Freddie Gray uprising happened, we felt like we're needing to really reach out in a very tangible way to women who lived on the west side of Baltimore. Caroline Center is on the east side. And there was certainly women from the west side came. That was never a problem, but we just wanted to be a kind of symbolically a place where they could be closer to home. So we formed a partnership with St. Agnes Hospital and trained women to be nursing assistants on that site for a number of years. For a variety of reasons, we closed it soon after I left Caroline Center. It was a wise move on the part of the staff. We had hoped that at some point to move into a larger space. St. Agnes was going to renovate what they called Gibbons Commons, which was across the street, and build that up, and that never happened. And so the space wasn't good and wasn't adequate, I should say. We wanted to expand into other areas, and so we closed that program. But women still come from the west side. That has never been a problem.
Thank you. And that's an interesting data point. You know, when I came in December of 2018, one of the first things I did is to look at the data and try to determine from where did the women come and reside. And there, Sister Pat, I think you'll agree, there is no rhyme or reason to why women come from the west side to the east side. I think there is something in that holiness about 900 Somerset Street that draws them in, because we had women from far west coming to 900 Somerset Street. And I think they just see it kind of as a flagship, and it's super special. Yeah. But we certainly miss the partnership with St. Agnes, and we miss having a presence there. And I will just tell you that we are in the beginnings of strategic planning efforts, and obviously facilities, and how do we grow our presence throughout Baltimore. So, because the need is great, the need continues to be great. So that is a part of our thought process. And then in 2019, you supported personnel at both locations. Next slide, please. Okay, this is really where it gets interesting. In March of 2013, if you come in Caroline Center now, I haven't allowed anybody to take it down. You'll look outside of our conference room sign-up sheet, and it's the last meeting that I signed us up for, and it was to talk about what this COVID thing was and how we'd be back in a week. And and clearly 10 months later, but I think we had a meeting with another one of our partners earlier before this event, and she referred to it as a pivot. And I want to say that we have been blessed that we, as a training workforce development program, some have not survived, but we were able to pivot to a totally online virtual platform beginning in March, and have continued to operate in that manner since then. One of the things that we did do, you can't serve as many women effectively in a virtual environment. So we're having 30 CNA class, 30 women per CNA, 30 for pharmacy tech, where it used to be 60 and 60. If I think I put 60 and 60 on, my instructors would all leave. So we've broken that down, and even to subgroups on that. And our women are still thriving. It is interesting. It is not hard, but one of the things we talked about this morning when Sister Pat and I participated in the Halfway Hurrah, the persistence of our women and the staff. And we have graduated 2 cohorts virtually since, that cohort graduated like late April. And what you see here is our CNA coordinator and instructor, Tony Mordugan, for our drive-by curbside graduation. We were featured in the Baltimore Times about that. We were super proud. One of the things that I talked about earlier was the digital divide that our women experience, and that we were able to get funding to provide them with Chrome booklets so that they can navigate the online virtual training environment. We found quickly that you cannot learn effectively using a smartphone. And then we provided some updated technologies for our instructors. And we've since started another cohort. We graduated one in July, October, and we're in the middle of a cohort right now that Sister Pat and I met with earlier today. And then we've instituted COVID-19 safety protocols. So I know we're almost out of time. So Sister Pat, one more last slide and we are done. We get excited.
I will make it very quick. I just want to emphasize how much, you as an organization feel that you're making an impact on the clients that we serve, but really you also make an impact on the organization itself. And I just want to thank you for that. Some of those things that are shown there were things that you brought us together to learn together with our peers. And the interest that you took in our organization really made us reflect on what we were doing and how we were doing it and why we were doing it, and made us a better institution as well. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you, Sister Pat and Lynn. And we're glad that the Caroline Center has been able to continue its work in the middle of a pandemic. And now we would like to take this opportunity to introduce the women that were part of the team that created the circle. You're going to see tulips by their names. These are the names of the women that did the formational work to create the new organization. And you're going to see the circle's original logo in the middle of this was published in the newsletter that they produced. And these women were a group of passionate and dynamic women who shared a common vision, a clear vision of what their organization could do and could be. These are the faces of women that could change the face of charitable giving. They loved to meet their grantees. They went out to meet people and learning about their community. They saw their collective giving give lend strength, a greater impact to their community, and with increases self-sufficiency of women.
Well, thank you everyone for joining us today for our celebration. We so appreciate your being here. And I think one of the things that I really learned over this hour is that Cam and Shelley and the other founders were not just founders of the organization, but they built a structure that is exactly what's in place today. And it remains basically unchanged, although expanded and changed in so many ways. But thank you, Pam and Shelley and the other founders once again. And also, of course, the culture of philanthropy continues to flourish.